My wife Lena and I had been married for almost 10 years. I used to think we had one of those marriages built to last. We met working at different accounting firms and hit it off right away. She had this quick wit, this big laugh that could turn a boring meeting into something halfway tolerable. She was beautiful in a classic way. Dark hair, sharp eyes, the kind of woman who made you feel lucky just to stand next to her. We got married faster than most. It felt right at the time. We were young, driven, both tired of the dating scene. I was already thinking long-term, and she made it seem like she was, too. We bought a house with a wide porch and a squeaky screen door that always needed fixing. We planted a tree in the backyard the day we moved in. She said it would grow with us. For a while, it did. We had a kid early on, our son Owen. Smart little guy. He's got Lena's sharp eyes, but my nose and stubbornness. I loved being a dad more than anything. And for a time, I thought Lena loved being a mom just as much. But if I'm being honest, and I've spent a lot of nights thinking this over, something in her started shifting after Owen was born. Subtle at first. Quieter dinners. More time staring at her phone. Less laughter. But I chalked it up to exhaustion. Parenthood's not easy, and Lena had a tough pregnancy. She put on a lot of weight, and she didn't bounce back the way she hoped. I told her she was beautiful 1,000 times, maybe more. But I could see it in her eyes. She didn't believe me. She started wearing looser clothes, avoided pictures, stopped going out with me to events we used to enjoy. Still, I didn't see this coming. 2 months ago, I was outside on the patio, grilling dinner like I always do on Sundays. Owen was upstairs building Lego castles, and I had steaks sizzling just the way Lena liked them. It should have been one of those normal, peaceful evenings. I had a beer in my hand, country music low on the radio, everything in place. And then Lena walked out and shattered it all. "I think we need to try separating," she said, just like that. Like she was reading from a damn script. "I need time to figure out who I really am." I remember just standing there, gripping the spatula, trying to process what I'd just heard. The steak nearly went up in flames behind me. Smoke was rising, and I didn't even turn around. I just stared at her. "Are you serious?" I asked. She nodded, calm as anything. Not a flicker of guilt. Just that polished tone she used when canceling a dentist appointment. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "So when were you planning to tell me? Before or after you moved in with Mira?" She flinched, just barely, and I knew I'd hit the mark. Mira, her best friend since college. The one who always had drama trailing behind her like a torn dress hem. I never liked Mira. She never liked me either. But that's another story. Lena's face shifted then. Her expression went blank. Cold. Glassy. I've seen it before, when she's lying but trying to act like she's not. "I was going to talk to you tonight," she said. Translation? She was going to disappear and leave me a note. Maybe a text if I was lucky. Nothing more. There was no tearful explanation. No, I don't want to hurt you speech. Just silence between us as the meat hissed behind me and Owen's laughter floated down the stairs. I didn't say much else. What could I say? My world was tilting, and I had a spatula in one hand and a burning steak behind me. So I turned off the grill, took a deep breath, told her to go back inside, and set the table like nothing had happened. She did. She actually did. That night we ate in near silence. Owen talked about his Lego ship. Lena nodded, smiled at all the right parts. I couldn't touch my food. I couldn't even look at her. Something in me cracked that evening. Not loud, not obvious, but it cracked all the same. And that's where it all began. She said she needed space. So I gave it to her. And that's where she miscalculated. I don't think she expected me to react the way I did. I think she thought I'd sulk, beg her to stay, ask what I'd done wrong. She's always been good at playing the cool one, like she's above the mess. But this time, I didn't give her the drama she could control. I gave her the real kind. I walked upstairs, opened our closet, grabbed a handful of her dresses, and tossed them on the bed. I pulled out a couple of her suitcases, the ones with the busted wheels she refused to replace, and started packing her things. I didn't fold them. I didn't take my time. I stuffed shirts and sweaters in like I was cleaning out a room in a hurry. Which I was. She followed me upstairs eventually, standing in the doorway like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. I didn't even look at her. I just said, "You want space? You got it. Take your things and go." That's when the waterworks started. Not the kind you cry when your heart is breaking. These were the kind you let loose when your plan doesn't go the way you pictured it. Her mascara smudged, running down her face. Her voice cracked when she said my name like she expected me to stop, to slow down, to soften. But I didn't. Because I finally saw it clearly, this wasn't about us. This was about her. Her journey. Her reinvention. Her chance to start fresh. And all I'd been was the placeholder husband she needed to help build the life she was now trying to escape from. She picked up her phone and walked into the hallway. A few seconds later, I heard her voice, quiet at first, then loud enough to catch the words. She was talking to Mira, telling her I'd lost it, saying I was threatening divorce, making herself the victim. I didn't need to hear the rest. I knew the script. Mira had probably coached her through this entire thing. They'd rehearsed it like a damn play. The emotional scene, the part where she leaves, the heartbroken but empowered woman walking away from the mean, stubborn husband. But I wasn't playing that role. By the time I came back downstairs, she was sitting on the couch with her phone still in her hand, suitcase by her side. She asked me if I was serious. I nodded. She asked if we could talk about it. I said we already had. She asked where I thought she should go. I told her she'd already made that decision. Then I left. I took Owen, just the two of us. I tried to pretend everything was normal for his sake. He talked about school, showed me a drawing he made of our house with a tree and a dog he wants but we don't have. He didn't ask about Lena. Not once. I don't know if that was a blessing or a warning sign. I let him get soda, even though Lena usually didn't let him have it during the week. I let him play that claw machine that never gives you the stuffed animal. He didn't win, but he didn't seem to care. We shared a slice of chocolate cake before we left, and he said it was the best night ever. My throat got tight when he said that. I didn't let it show. When we pulled back into the driveway, I knew what I'd see before I even opened the door. She was gone. No note. No explanation. Just gone. The suitcase was missing from the living room. The lamp she always complained about was gone from the end table. I walked into the kitchen and saw her coffee mug drying by the sink. The one with the chip in the handle that she always said she'd throw away but never did. The steak I had been grilling earlier? Still sitting in the pan. Cold. Gray. Dead on arrival. I wrapped it in foil and shoved it into the trash. Then I locked the front door, turned off the lights, and sat on the couch in the dark. Owen was already upstairs, asleep in his blanket fort. I sat there for a long time, just listening to the silence. And that's when it really hit me. Not just that she left, but how she left. Not with honesty. Not with grace. Not with a sense of responsibility. She left like someone walking out of a movie halfway through. Like the rest of the story wasn't worth finishing. But she learned soon enough she didn't get to control the ending. Not this time. Now let's delve a little deeper into history. I caught her more than once staring at herself in the mirror with this look, like she didn't recognize the person looking back. After Owen was born, she didn't bounce back like she hoped. The weight stuck around, and the world around her didn't make that easy to ignore. Her coworkers talked. I know they did. One day, she came home in tears, said she overheard two women at the copier making jokes about her size. One of them asked the other if Lena's maternity leave had ended or if she was still pregnant. I remember her sitting on the floor in the laundry room, holding a towel like it was going to anchor her, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. That's when the change began. First, it was small cutting sugar, skipping meals. Then came the diet pills. She didn't tell me at first. I found them in her purse, little white tablets in a plastic zip bag with no label. I asked her about them, and she said they were natural. I didn't push it. Maybe I should have. Then came the gym. She started going twice a day. At first, I supported it. I figured it was helping her feel better, find herself again. But it turned into something else. She got obsessed. Counted every calorie, weighed herself before and after workouts, took mirror selfies in the bathroom when she thought I wasn't looking. And through it all, there was Mira, her best friend turned personal hype woman. Mira had always been the flashy type. Loud lipstick, louder opinions. Never stayed in one relationship for long. She called herself free-spirited, but all I ever saw was self-centered. Mira was the one who convinced Lena she was trapped, that she deserved more, that she shouldn't have to settle down so young. I was the one who stayed up with Owen when he had a fever. I was the one mowing the lawn, fixing the leaky faucet, making sure the bills got paid. But Mira made it sound like I was a weight around Lena's neck. And Lena started listening. The weight kept coming off. She dropped down to 57 kilos. Bought new clothes. Not just casual wear, stuff you'd see on someone headed to a rooftop bar downtown, not someone picking up groceries. Cropped jackets, tight jeans, low-cut tops. I'm not judging, she looked good. I told her so. But it wasn't about looking good for herself. She wanted to be seen. And she was. The guys at her office noticed. Some of them got real bold. One guy, I'll never forget this, gave her a necklace. No birthday, no promotion. Just handed it to her because she deserved something nice. I asked her about it. She shrugged and said, it was a joke. Yeah, right? A joke from Chad, who apparently thinks giving jewelry to married women is normal workplace behavior. I should have seen it all sooner. But when you're in it, when you've built a life with someone, you don't look for signs. You trust. You believe in the promises you made. Turns out I was the only one still honoring them. At first, I didn't think much of it. Lena told me she was starting a weekly girls' night, every Wednesday after work. Just drinks and laughs, she said. A way to unwind and stay connected with some of the women from her office. I figured it was harmless. I mean, I don't have a problem with her having friends or blowing off some steam. The first night she came home a little buzzed. Nothing major. She dropped her purse on the kitchen counter, kicked off her heels in the hallway, and flopped down on the couch with a big, silly grin. You have no idea how badly I needed that, she said. I asked how it went, and she just said, good. Just the girls catching up. We talked a lot. I didn't push. She seemed happy, relaxed. But the following week, things started shifting. She came home later. This time it was nearly 9:30. She was louder, glassy-eyed, and reeked of some kind of floral body mist. Definitely not what she usually wore. I gave her a look as she stumbled in, and she gave me that overplayed line. Don't worry, it was just a few drinks. Except now it wasn't just drinks. She'd come home late, flushed, messy hair, laughing at nothing, and immediately act like she'd been waiting all day just to throw herself at me. It wasn't her usual rhythm. It felt sudden, mechanical, like a switch flipped. At first, I thought maybe this was her way of rekindling something between us. Like maybe these nights out were helping her relax and reconnect. But then came the new moves. Things we never did before. Stuff we never even talked about. I won't go into graphic detail, but let's just say it wasn't what you'd expect after 10 years of marriage. Lena was never shy, but she was never particularly adventurous either. Suddenly, she was pushing boundaries I didn't even know she had. One night I joked, "So, did you learn that from a magazine?" She smiled, not sweetly, not nervously, but smugly. Something like that. That answer stuck with me. It wasn't just that things were different. It was how different they were. She didn't touch me like someone rediscovering her husband. She touched me like someone practicing. And yeah, maybe that sounds crazy. But when you've been with someone that long, you know their rhythm. You know when something is coming from love and when it's coming from somewhere else. I started noticing other little things. Her phone was always face down. She used to leave it out on the table or counter like it didn't matter. Now it was glued to her hand or tucked into her purse like it carried state secrets. Notifications would come in and she'd glance at them, then tuck the phone away. I asked her once who was texting so late. Just Mira, she said. It was always Mira. Everything Lena did seemed to trace back to her. New outfits? Myra's idea. Different hair color? Mira suggested it. Going out on Wednesdays? Mira planned it. Mira. There was one night Lena didn't come home until almost midnight. She walked in with a dazed look and lipstick half smeared, as if she'd rushed to clean herself up in the car and didn't quite pull it off. I asked if everything was okay. She just said, "We got carried away talking. Time flew." I didn't argue. I didn't want to pick a fight. But I remember standing in the kitchen that night, staring at the empty driveway, wondering why talking smelled like men's cologne and came home with hair that looked like it had been windblown in someone else's car. The energy between us changed too. We used to talk while brushing our teeth, folding laundry, driving to visit her parents. Now she barely offered more than surface-level replies. It was fine. Nothing much happened. Just tired. But Wednesday nights? She came home energized. Not with stories, but with that same rehearsed eagerness, like she was performing something. I started feeling more like a prop in my own house than a partner. Even outside of those nights, she started dressing differently. Clothes tighter. Tops lower cut. New heels she didn't even take the tags off until a Wednesday rolled around. I asked her once, "You getting all dressed up for the girls?" She laughed and said, "Yeah, you never know who's going to be out." That line didn't sit right either. It wasn't just the look. It was the way she said it, with that edge of defiance, like she wanted me to ask more. Like she was waiting to start a fight, or worse, tempt me into one so she could blame me later. Every week felt like watching someone else take over her body. Like Lena had been replaced by a version of herself who was younger, bolder, and less interested in hiding what she was becoming. I should have said something stronger. Should have put my foot down. but I was still trying to make sense of it. Still trying to believe this was just a phase. Still hoping it would pass. The morning after Lena left, I sat at the kitchen table long before the sun came up. I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't sit around waiting for her to change her mind or show up with a smile and a lie. She had made her decision. That meant I had to make mine. First thing I did was call Victor, a lawyer I had met through a coworker a few years back when we had some contract issues at work. He was the kind of guy who wore old suits and knew how to ruin someone politely. I didn't waste time. I told him everything, about Lena leaving, about Owen, about how I didn't trust what she might try to do next. I told him I wasn't trying to destroy her, but I needed to protect what mattered. My house. My savings. Most of all, my son. Victor didn't flinch. He walked me through it all, step by step. By noon we had a temporary separation agreement drafted, nothing final, just a 60-day framework to hold things steady while we figured out what came next. Custody terms. Financial protections. Guidelines for contact. We agreed that Owen would stay with me. I was his primary caretaker anyway, especially lately. Lena hadn't packed his lunch or folded his socks in weeks. She was too busy trying to rediscover herself, or whatever buzzword she was clinging to that week. When Lena got served at work 2 days later, I heard about it from Victor's assistant. She didn't expect it. She thought she'd left on her terms, like she had all the control. Turns out, control only works when the other person lets you have it. She called 12 times in 2 days. No voicemail the first few. Then she started leaving them. We need to talk. This is too far. You're overreacting. That sort of thing. All sugar on the surface with venom underneath. I didn't answer. I didn't even listen to them all. Just deleted and moved on. I changed the locks that same week. Canceled her access to the shared credit card. Called the bank and moved half the money into an account in my name. Everything I did was legal, above board, and guided by Victor. But I could still feel the burn of it like a heat coming off her from a distance. While she spun out, I stayed focused. Owen needed routine, and I wasn't about to let him feel the fallout from his mom's choices. But I also had to keep working, and that meant I needed help. That's when I met Bree. She answered an ad I posted for part-time help, a nanny, someone reliable. She was fresh out of college, working part-time at a family-owned cafe. Blonde, tall, book-smart, and full of that rare kind of patience you either have or you don't. She came from a big family, said she had 2 younger brothers, and used to help with cousins all the time. She met Owen once, and he was glued to her side 10 minutes later. She started the following Monday. Bree made things easier in ways I hadn't expected. Not just with the day-to-day stuff like lunchboxes and bath time, but emotionally, too. She talked to Owen like he was more than a kid. She listened to him. She asked about his drawings, sat on the floor, and helped him build cardboard castles. One night, maybe 2 weeks in, I had a dinner scheduled with a few colleagues, nothing formal, just a casual thank you thing at a mid-range steakhouse downtown. I didn't want to leave Owen behind, and Bree offered to come along so he wouldn't feel out of place. That evening, she asked me if it was okay to wear something a little nicer. I said sure. She came downstairs wearing one of Lena's old dresses. I recognized it right away. It was a blue wrap dress that Lena had worn once to a company holiday party and then shoved to the back of the closet. Bree found it, and somehow it fit her better than it ever did Lena. She looked elegant without trying to. I didn't say much, just nodded and said she looked nice. We took Owen and met the others at the restaurant. I'd arranged for a car to pick us up because I didn't feel like driving. The limo pulled up right on time. Owen got in first, bouncing with excitement. Bree slid in beside him. As we were pulling away, I looked out the window, and there she was, Lena, driving the opposite direction. Our cars passed slowly, like a scene in a movie where everyone knows what's about to happen. She turned her head, saw us through the glass. Bree, Owen, me in a jacket, not my usual jeans. The look on her face told me everything. It wasn't heartbreak. It was rage, not sadness, not regret. It was how dare you move on faster than me. And maybe I shouldn't have smiled. But I did. Because for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was finally getting ahead of the storm. The days that followed felt strange. Lena didn't call, didn't text, didn't leave notes or make noise. It was just quiet. Too quiet. And not the kind of quiet that brings peace, either. It was the kind of quiet that feels like a held breath before something breaks. She started seeing Owen twice a week, which was more than she had been around before she left. Wednesdays and Sundays, she'd stop by for an hour or two. The visits were awkward. She'd bring little toys or snacks he didn't really care about and act overly cheerful, like she was trying too hard. Owen didn't say much to her. He clung to Bree more than ever, and I could tell that stung Lena even if she tried not to show it. We didn't speak unless it was necessary. What time Sunday? Does he need anything from me? That was it. Every word she said had the sharp edge of someone trying to play polite while barely holding back something ugly. Meanwhile, I continued with my life. I focused on work, kept track of Owen's schedule, and turned to Bree for help when I needed it. I also hired a private investigator. I wasn't proud of it. I didn't like being that person, the one who followed someone around looking for proof of something I already believed. But something told me that Lena hadn't just found herself at cocktail parties and bachelorette parties. For a while, the reports were uneventful. She went to work. She met Mira for dinner. She went to a bookstore once and came home early. If she was doing something shady, she was keeping it out of sight. Until one Saturday. The PI sent over a file that started with the usual shots: Lena leaving her apartment, meeting a friend, walking into a bar downtown. But about 10 photos in, it changed. There she was, sitting in a dimly lit booth with some guy I'd never seen before. His arm was around her shoulders. Her head rested against him. She had a drink in one hand and her other hand on his leg. Her laugh, frozen in the flash of the camera, looked more like something out of a movie than real life. In the next frame, his hand was up her thigh, fingers disappearing under the edge of a short dress I didn't recognize. Her ring finger was bare. No engagement ring. No wedding band. Nothing. The last photo hit the hardest. They were kissing outside the bar under one of those yellow porch lights that made everything look soft and fake. Her arms were wrapped around his neck like she didn't have a care in the world. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't call her. I forwarded the whole batch to Victor and told him it was time to prepare. A couple of days later, Lena showed up at the house unannounced. Bree was at the park with Owen, so it was just me. She knocked like everything was normal. I opened the door and just stood there. She looked nervous. That tight smile she used to give right before telling me she dented the car or forgot to pay a bill. "Can we talk?" she asked. I didn't move. I just let her keep going. I've been thinking about everything. About us. I miss the way things used to be. I know I hurt you, but I didn't mean to. I still love you. I asked her straight. Do you think what you did at that bar was okay? She blinked. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't, I said. She stepped forward, like getting closer would help her case. It didn't mean anything. I was drunk. I just needed to feel something. But I didn't go too far. That's what she said. I didn't go too far. That line stuck with me for days afterward. As if the damage only counts once a certain threshold is crossed. As if betrayal doesn't come in degrees. She stood there in the doorway of the house we bought together, wearing makeup she didn't wear for me anymore, acting like I was the one who needed convincing. You think I haven't seen the photos? I asked. Her face drained of color. Her mouth opened, then closed. That was a mistake. I didn't. He kissed me. I raised my eyebrows. So now you're saying he just grabbed you, kissed you, and you went along with it for fun? She looked away. Lena, don't insult my intelligence. She tried again. Look, I made bad choices, but I didn't really cheat on you. You and I, we were already apart. I didn't think it counted. I actually laughed. A short, dry kind of laugh that didn't have any humor in it. You didn't think it counted? I didn't sleep with him, she said, voice rising, hands in the air like that made it all okay. I still love you. That has to mean something. I leaned against the door frame and crossed my arms. Sure, Lena. And Myra's a nun. She glared at me then, all the softness gone. That's the Lena I'd come to know the last year, the one who could spin every mess into someone else's fault. She stormed off, mumbling something about how I never understood her. And she was right. I never did understand how someone could break their own family apart and still act like the victim. But now I didn't have to understand it. I just had to be ready. The day of the trial came with gray skies and the kind of morning chill that sneaks into your bones. I barely slept the night before. Bree got Owen ready for the day while I put on my one good suit and double-checked the folder of documents Victor asked me to bring. Copies of everything, our financials, messages, photos, the separation agreement. Everything neatly labeled, stapled, organized. No room for mistakes. We drove in silence most of the way. Bree sat in the back with Owen, pointing out buildings, trying to keep things light. He had no idea what was going on, and I wanted to keep it that way. He just knew Dad had an appointment, and he'd be hanging out with Bree for a few hours. The courthouse wasn't crowded, which made it worse somehow. No buzz of strangers to disappear into. Just marble floors, cold benches, and the sound of footsteps echoing too loud. Victor met me at the steps, gave me a firm handshake, and a low, "You ready?" I nodded. I wasn't, but it didn't matter. Lena was already inside. She wore a gray dress I hadn't seen before, her hair curled just enough to look effortless. She looked prepared, like someone told her what would play well in court. She barely looked at me, just kept whispering to her lawyer, some woman with glasses and a tight jaw. The judge was middle-aged, no nonsense, and not interested in anyone's theatrics. He called things to order and jumped right into it. Victor went first. He was calm, respectful, but clear. He talked about Lena's abrupt departure, her unstable behavior, the photos, the lack of consistency in her parenting. He spoke of my role, my efforts to maintain stability, Owen's schooling, our finances, my employment. He backed it all up with receipts, records, and quiet logic. Then it was her lawyer's turn. They leaned hard into Lena's emotional history. They painted a picture of a woman overwhelmed by early motherhood, by judgmental coworkers, by a husband who, according to her, had become distant and robotic. Lena started crying during this part. Right on cue. I don't mean to sound heartless. Maybe the tears were real, but they were also perfectly timed. She brought up the weight gain from years ago. How she never felt attractive after Owen was born. How I didn't make her feel seen. How I buried myself in spreadsheets and emails and stopped being her partner. She said she was drowning, and I didn't notice. That she didn't leave out of malice, she left because she needed air. I kept my face straight. No reaction. Victor told me beforehand, judges don't like drama. Stay steady. Stay focused. So I did. But inside, I wanted to stand up and ask her what part of needing air included letting a stranger shove his hands under her skirt behind a bar. When her side finished, the judge took a moment, flipped through paperwork, asked a few questions. I answered every one directly, clearly. No bitterness. Just facts. Victor had prepped me well. Then came the decision. The judge said he couldn't ignore the instability Lena had shown, but he also couldn't ignore that she was still Owen's mother. He acknowledged that the photos were concerning, but said they didn't prove a full pattern of neglect. His final ruling: joint custody. Alternating weeks. I didn't blink. Lena wiped a tear away and looked over at me like she'd won something. Like the fact that we had to keep handing Owen back and forth was some kind of victory. We left the courtroom. Bree was waiting outside with Owen. He ran to me like nothing in the world had changed. I crouched down, held him for a long moment, and then stood up. I looked at Bree. "I'm not leaving him," I said. She nodded. She didn't ask for an explanation. She didn't need one. That night, after Owen went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with a legal pad and a pen. I made a list, stuff to pack, documents to transfer, accounts to close. Bree sat across from me, quiet, steady. She didn't interrupt. She didn't ask questions. We both knew what came next. We weren't just moving anymore. We were leaving. The offer had come months earlier. Overseas contract work through a client I'd done bookkeeping for years back. They'd opened a new regional office and were looking for someone they trusted to manage operations and build systems from the ground up. At the time, I passed on it. Too much going on at home, too many roots. But after the courtroom decision and everything that followed, I called them back. The offer was still open. Better pay than what I made stateside. Free housing for the first year, help with Owen's schooling. It felt like the universe had left a door open just wide enough for me to walk through. I didn't hesitate this time. I signed the paperwork, set the date, and began to prepare. Quietly. Lena didn't know. I didn't tell her because I didn't trust her not to ruin it, or try to stop it just to spite me. She had her week with Owen, and I didn't interfere. But I used every day of mine to pack, plan, and organize the move. I sold off what I could, donated what didn't matter. Bree handled the rest: clothes, toys, school supplies, passports, the little things you forget until it's too late. She was calm through all of it. I think she understood how much I needed this. Not just for me, but for Owen. On Monday morning, before the sun rose, we left. We didn't make a scene. No announcements. No goodbye tour. I slipped a single envelope into Lena's mailbox on the way to the airport. It had no return address, just a note on plain white paper that said, "I hope you finally found what you were looking for. We're gone." The flight was long, but Owen handled it better than I expected. He pressed his nose against the window during takeoff and asked Bree if we'd see clouds up close. She smiled, told him yes, and pointed out the wing as we leveled off. I watched them for a while, her hand resting on his shoulder, his head bobbing as he tried to stay awake. It was the first time in a long while I didn't feel like something was closing in on me. By the time Lena found out, we were thousands of miles away. I didn't check my email the first few days. I wanted a clean break. But when I finally opened it, her name was there. 2 messages. Then 4. Then 8. The subject lines were all over the place. Where are you? You can't do this. We need to talk. I deserve to see my son. I didn't read them. I archived them without opening. And I haven't opened one since. I don't feel guilty about it. Owen is safe. He is happy. He is not a pawn in anyone's game. He plays soccer now after school, speaks bits of the local language, and carries a backpack almost too big for his body. Bree walks him to school every morning. He calls her mom, not because we told him to, but because he decided she deserved it. 6 months have passed. Bree and I got married here. Nothing big, just a small ceremony in a garden outside the city. No guests, no white dress, just vows spoken plainly and promises kept between the lines. It felt real, honest, solid in a way I hadn't felt in years. We're expecting a baby this winter. She told me on a Sunday morning, standing barefoot in the kitchen with a cup of tea in her hands and a nervous smile that barely held together. I didn't cry. I just held her, and in that moment, everything settled into place. This life isn't flashy. We live in a modest apartment with thin walls and slow elevators. I take the train to work. Bree's learning to cook things she can't pronounce. We still have hard days. It's not perfect. Nothing is. But it's ours. Lena still emails every so often. I imagine she thinks I'll come around eventually, that I'll let her back and once enough time has passed. Maybe she still believes she can explain it all away. But I won't reply. And I never will. She spent years trying to find herself. Tried to build a new life out of attention and admiration. Thought the grass was greener on the other side. What she left behind was real. What she ran toward was an illusion. In the end, she got lost. And I found peace. Share your thoughts in the comments. Was it right for the main character to leave with his son without informing his ex-wife face-to-face? If you liked the story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.